So, Attila, brilliant to speak to you.
Lovely to speak to you too,
Love to
Jason.
speak to you. Just for the listeners here on Yorvik Radio, I'm with Attila, who is performing in the Nat King Cole Story at the Theatre Royal. It starts on Monday. I've got a few questions for Attila, and just to give everybody some background as well to the particular interview, I've told Attila this already, that Nat King Cole, even though everybody knows me for my soul music and the jazz and R&B and blues, whatever, and ska, my favourite singer of all time is Nat King Cole. So this is a real important interview for me, and if I don't know, stutter is maybe because, I'm a little bit in awe of Attila. But so Attila, listen, welcome to Yorvik Radio, Attila, and it's a real pleasure to have you on.
Well, thank you for having me. The pleasure is all mine, especially based on the conversation we've just had. You know,
that's cool.
It's been really interesting learning a little more about yourself as well, just to understand where you're coming from with the Nat King Cole thing.
No, it's my pleasure, and it just gives a little bit of context and just how important I think it is, what it is that you're doing for society as a whole. But so just my first question, Attila, is so how did the show come about then?
So, I mean, the great thing about our show is it was more a case of five friends getting together and saying, well, what can we do to spread music out to the world? And I think it was more, the reason why we chose Nat King Cole was more along the lines of, I mean, Frank Sinatra has been, the music's great. So many people are doing Frank, paying tribute to Frank, and the likes of Ella Fitzgerald. And we thought, well, who really is not getting enough exposure, and who is an absolute musical genius? And we thought, well, it's got to be Nat King Cole, especially the life he led, and the different periods of his life in terms of performing with his trio for Capitol Records, and then moving on to working with orchestrators and big bands, and more the string arrangements, the romanticized part of Nat's life, and the struggles he faced along the way. I mean, we don't focus so much of the struggles in the show, but what the show enables people to do is take a little bit of Nat's life, his musical journey, and actually do a little bit more research. So we hope that the show entices people to open the Nat King Cole life book and have a little more of a read, in-depth read.
I don't know, again, whether it's one of these urban myths or musical urban myths, if you can have such a thing, that from what I understand, that he just had the trio and he used to play in a bar. I don't know where it was in America, and he never sang, and it was just him playing piano. And then it was supposedly one night some bloke who'd had a few too many was kind of egging him on to sing. And the place was busy. I think people were eating. I don't know, and he used to just play. I don't know if it was just a trio, just him playing piano. And so he started to sing, and then it just this silence, this hush across. Supposedly, I don't know how true that is. You might be able to tell me.
Well, that is 100% on point, and that is the start of our second set.
Wow!
So we actually focus on that actual song. The song was "Sweet Lorraine." Nat was playing with his trio at the time, and the drunk guy shouts out from the back, sing. Don't you know the words? Just sing the song. And Nat didn't really know the words or the actual song inside out at that point, but he pulled it together because he was just a great improviser, and the rest is history. Nat was a great pianist as well.
I mean,
in his own right, he was a fantastic. In fact, I think there was an agreement made between Oscar Peterson and Nat King Cole, and because they were both exceptional at both singing and playing, I think Oscar was told, "You play." I think it was Norman Granz, and Nat Cole said, "You sing." In the end, but if you listen to an album that Oscar Peterson recorded, it's called "With Regards to Nat." He sounds exactly like Nat King Cole
when he's singing, really
singing and playing. Yeah,
right. I shall do that. Listen to this. I'm always wanting to learn and hear new things. No, that's wonderful. To just give us that kind of background as into why you're kind of doing this. So why should people come and see the show? What is the the big element. I think you've touched on some elements already about, wanting to spread, music, across society, hoping to inspire people to do a bit more research into that, and maybe because other people have been covered far more than him. But what other elements would you say? What
Well,
particularly about the show?
I think it's probably more an educational journey, because we don't
Okay,
just sing the songs. We
right.
tell a story behind each song, historically, when the song was performed, what was happening at the time,
Yeah, yeah.
who he was recording with, and the reasons why certain albums or songs came into play. So
Right.
the great thing about the show is that it's an educational journey, which means that anyone could come and sit down,
Yeah, yeah.
not know anything about Nat King Cole, and
Wow.
just sit down and by the end of the show maybe know a little bit more. It's not
That's
overbearing. It's not overbearing in any way.
so. What do you feel the show kind of brings to the world of music? Again, I know you've touched on maybe a couple of things, but what?
Yeah, I mean, I feel the 50s are 40s, 50s are slowly becoming a forgotten art, especially
Right.
amongst the youngsters. Now,
Okay.
I think I touched on this earlier with yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether it's a British thing
Okay.
or not,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm only saying that because uh, maybe it's a patriotic thing with Americans, but even the
Could be.
youngsters cling to this American songbook like it's their own,
Right.
and they still really much appreciate and love those early classic numbers
Yeah. Yeah.
where
Yeah.
melody and lyric were king, so
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
say.
On a similar note, but and again, we discussed this earlier, but what does the kind of show bring to kind of society as a whole? I know you've kind of mentioned this maybe a little bit, but
From a societal
yeah, yeah,
aspect, yeah, we spoke about this earlier. I think there is far too much going on in the world at the moment, and music as a whole, I genuinely feel from the bottom of my heart, everyone can relate to it,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's a real unifier,
It is.
bringing people, cultures, societies together
Yeah,
without those let's say barriers or borders,
yeah,
however you want to look at it. And I think music is a wonderful tool
it is.
in just unifying the human race.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think, and I totally concur. And as we discussed before, I do feel music is so unifying. And yeah, you know, again,
And you know what? I must add to that as well.
yeah, yeah,
A really common thing we get after the show is that reminded me, especially for youngsters in the audience, that reminded me of my grandma, or that reminded me of my granddad,
yeah, yeah,
who
yeah,
used to play these records, or my mum and dad who used to play these records around the house. So it almost it forces a sense of nostalgia
yeah, yeah,
as well amongst families, and it keeps the legacy of their
yeah,
parents alive.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That
Because
link.
they can all relate to these things, and,
Yeah,
and and then they start listening to the records even more.
yeah. Yeah, and it has, and then it also brings meaning to these things. However, people interpret a particular piece of music, whether it's just standalone and you appreciate the piece of music and the performance, or B, it's that combined with it reminds you of my mother, or reminds me of my father, or my
Absolutely.
grandfather, and there is that continual link. And then you hope they do the same with their offspring, that they also,
There you
and that's
go.
how it
There you
works,
go.
isn't it? That's how it works. But yeah,
Absolutely.
so what have you enjoyed about putting the production together and actually performing it? What has been the main kind of thing that you've met, or several things that you might have enjoyed about
So,
putting
so,
this all
so for,
together?
for me, putting this together, I have to say, it was the fact that it wasn't overly done.
Yeah, yeah,
People
yeah,
weren't paying attention to, for example, Nat's trio period,
yeah,
um, and then his big band period, and then his strings period, and coupling it all into one show and
yeah, yeah,
one story. So the thing I've enjoyed most is being able to put that on paper
yeah,
and present it in let's say two sets of music.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it was difficult. I'm
No, I
not
can
gonna
imagine.
lie, because there's so much great material out there.
Yeah,
So it's a case of saying, uh, okay, we like these songs, and musically they resonate well with us, but what's going to resonate with the
with the
audience
audience.
as
Yeah,
well?
yeah, yeah,
And a lot of the time, if you're picking songs that the audience don't know, you have a danger of alienating your audience. So it becomes less of an educational journey now and more of an ego-driven, oh, I
Yeah.
like this song, I want to perform this song. And it's not that, and it's a case of just, it's been a real enjoyable process putting that together and trying to understand the psychology of an audience based on what without losing the musical love that we have in performing different material.
Maybe any surprises or things that you've learnt about Cole, having done the research and putting the production together and performing it, and things about his life or his, just some of the little inside stories you told us there about Oscar Peterson. I had no idea that there was that kind of connection between those two. Are there any other things that you've learned?
We got some fun things in the show.
Okay.
Obviously, with the research, we found out that Nat's version of "I Love You for Sentimental Reasons" was one of the biggest contributing albums to the building of Capitol Records.
I didn't know that.
Nat,
wow.
in effect, Capitol Records was built off the back of Nat King Cole.
Oh my word! No, I didn't know
that. And then later on in his career, where rock and roll was kind of taking precedence on the scene, Nat received a call from what he called Capitol Records, and a voice on the other end said, "Hi, this is Capitol Records, home of Elvis." Well, of course, Nat was fuming at something like that, and in fact, the song was written. Nat Cole Won't Rock and Roll for Nat King Cole, and it's funny, but you can also hear the I guess the sadness in Nat's voice that something so beloved to him had now been passed on to someone else.
Wow.
So that got things like that. There's great stories in the show that we have where Nat would learn foreign language songs phonetically in the studio, based on the country he was visiting, and there's some funny stories about what Natalie Cole, his daughter, says. I don't want to spoil it too much.
No, I was just going to
say. We really focus on different areas, like I say, the trio period, songs like "Straighten Up and Fly Right," "Hit That Jive Jack." And in fact, the guys also getting in a bit of the vocal action as well on stage, because Wesley Prince and Oscar Moore, they used to do that as well with Nat. So you used to have these "Straighten Up and Fly Right," for example. You can always hear two voices on that. I wonder if it was Wesley Prince or Johnny Miller who replaced Wesley Prince later on. But we have that. We have the language medley, foreign language medley. We have focus on Nat's collaborations with people like Eden Arbe, who was the writer of Nature Boy. So there's a great story behind that as well. So, and of course, there's working with our very own George Shearing, British pianist. So it's, I think we've really nailed it in terms of focusing on different areas, and each of those areas will resonate differently with the audience.
Yeah. No, I say I can't wait. I'm so looking forward to it, and so is my father. I can tell you that. My dad again, and he two things that he asked. So the one that he said was he watched a documentary about Johnny Mathis fairly recently, and Johnny Mathis said about how much an influence Nat King Cole was on his own career and everything. And the question was then, are there any kind of references to? And you mentioned some of the collaborations, where there might have been other artists who may have said that, Cole was a major influence on, and I understand there may not be, but it was just a question my father wanted.
That was interesting. Well, I mean, there's a great team. While we're on the Mathis subject, there was a great TV tribute to Nat King Cole, and Mathis did that. It was a live TV thing. So if you can get your hands on that, that would be great. That's fantastic. I think there are little excerpts on YouTube. But I haven't managed to find the whole thing. So in the show, I don't believe we don't really focus on what other artists are saying. But I mean, many people say many great things. I mean, for example, Mel Torme had Nat King Cole on his show, on his TV show. Frank Sinatra was the first one to ensure that Nat King Cole came through the front entrance of a hotel rather than the kitchen. And Frank wouldn't dine. He said, "I refuse to be here. unless Nat King Cole can come through the front door. And that was a massive turning point, especially on the racial aspect of history.
Yeah.
Who else? Of course, Nat worked with Ella as well. Like I say, George Shearing, and many people. And and in fact, I have to say, I don't know if this is of any importance or if anyone will know the name, but I had a very dear friend who took me under his wing, who was a dear friend of Frank Sinatra's and the Rat Pack. His name was Buddy Greco.
I know. Buddy Greco, I've heard.
Buddy took me under his wing.
Yeah,
Fever, and Love Being Here With You.
Yeah.
But he was the lounge singer of Vegas, and he used to hang out with Frank all the time. And he was a great friend of Cole's.
Right.
And in fact, so much so that in Buddy's early career, when he first started, he sounded too much like Nat King Cole. And they said, "Look, you can't do this. You're not gonna make it sounding like that. You need your own voice."
Yeah.
So he used to tell me many stories about his relationships with all of these singers, with Frank, with Sammy, with Nat King Cole, and a lot of Buddy's piano playing was based around that as well. So I mean, there's so many great stories, and I've been very fortunate to bump into so many lovely people on the way that have helped facilitate my journey as an artist and a singer.
Yeah. You just briefly touched on it, and again, I know it's a difficult one, and you touched on obviously the kind of racism at the time, and is that in any shape or form covered? Because I know you said there were struggles that you had to face with him. You know, I remember watching the Green Book not so long back about that famous black classical musician who, you know, the headline act at whatever country club, and yet he wasn't allowed to dine in the dining. And you know, is any of that touched upon? I mean, I don't know. I assume a little bit, maybe.
We haven't. No,
that's fair enough.
Just specifically on the basis that I don't think 2 45-minute sets will do it justice.
Oh yeah, that's fair play. Good call.
You know, and it's such a deep rooted issue.
Yeah.
And a period of history that I think would need a longer period of time to sit down and talk and to give it the respect it deserves.
Yeah. No, that's brilliantly answered there. No, I totally appreciate that. And so Atila, just sort of maybe one more kind of final thing. These things are all popping into my head. So how would you describe the show?
Well, the show, I would say it's an easy sort of confusion to make when you see a Nat King Cole show.
Right.
You expect to see someone sounding like Nat or looking like Nat. This isn't that. This isn't a tribute of Nat King Cole. It's a tribute to Nat King Cole.
Right.
And paying respect to the music and musical journey through his life. So I think that's a clear distinction to make.
Yeah.
But either way, you will come out smiling and just understanding and knowing a little bit more about that.
No, that's all one can ask, Atila. That is all one can ask, and especially, as I say, to me, I say, the greatest singer that I've ever heard. Period. It's just so,
I concur.
No. Right. Just, if there's anything else you wanted to add for our listeners, or?
Well, I can only say that if you've never heard of Nat or you don't listen to Nat's music, this show is really tailored to not only meet your needs, but people who also know about Nat. And you get to converse and meet different people on these shows who might be able to facilitate your journey and understanding Nat King Cole and learning a bit more about. So it's really a show for everyone. So please come along. You'll have great fun. We have props on stage. We have a Capital Radio mic.
Wow.
We also have projection behind us, which works along the show. And we also managed to get some sort of recording session excerpts from the studio of Nat.
Wow.
So it's really funny, and we've really sort of weaved it into the whole show. So it's a really engaging, dynamic experience as well. So you'll have a great fun.
Yeah, and I mean, listeners to Your Vic Radio, I can only just kind of reiterate support and just, concur that it sounds an absolutely fabulous thing to do, to attend, and for me, even something like me who's saying Nat King Cole is my favourite singer, period, full time of all time, that I'm just so excited to see this and learn so much more and hear these tunes being performed on a stage by live artists. So Attila, listen, thank you very much from myself, all the listeners here at Your Vic. Yeah, listen, have a wonderful week next week. Enjoy and travel safely up to this neck of the woods. And I'll be there. Me and my father, bated breath
Amazing.
to
Well, I'm looking
hear
forward
all
to
of this.
meeting you. I'm
No,
looking forward to meeting you.
wonderful. All right. Thank you, Attila. Yes.
Thanks, Jason.
All right, my brother. Listen, take care. All
Thank you,
right.
you too.
And you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.